Hi, welcome to my blog. My name is Tom Shue, and today we're going to do part 2 of a member invited retouch by Johan Bierwerts, the gentleman from Belgium. He was kind enough to send us an image of his girlfriend, and in the first tutorial we went ahead and got the exposure where it needed to be, and I talked to you about why and how you might do that. So in this one we're going to go from this image to our properly exposed image to a retouched image inside Lightroom. Let's pull this image up. Lightroom 4 for me runs pretty slow on my machine, so it's taking a while to do just about anything anymore. When I'm running like the screen cap software. So if we zoom in here on this image, you'll see that her skin is pretty good shape. Her eyes have a nice glint to them. Her hair's looking pretty good. Her teeth look pretty good, nice and white. Her chin, nice and blended in. So let's take a look at this image here. Alright, you see how it's kind of red here, and there's some areas on her teeth that we need to whiten. There's areas in her skin that we need to get rid of, these little pieces of things that need to be exfoliated. We're going to be working on her eyes a little bit. Let me pull this open a little bit, make it fit the screen. See that we've done some changes on her hair as well. Okay, we've added some highlights to her hair. We've done some work on her lips. See, they look like they've got kind of a gloss applied to them. So you can see they're kind of dry there. So we'll get started here, and I'll show you what I did. This is probably going to take quite some time working inside Lightroom. So I'll do a Lightroom, and then I'll do a Photoshop retouch. So let's get started. Close up some of this interface here. Actually, I'm going to work with this image here, the second one in. So there's the original, and then there's the second one. This is our safety net in case we need to go back. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply an overall skin softening to her. Okay, so we're going to grab our brush tool, and we're going to apply a new brush. You always want to click new, and we're going to get one of my brushes. This is the TSP, or Thomas Shue Photography, and we're going to get the skin soften brush. Now I don't want to apply it as a straight 100%. We're going to build this effect up. In Photoshop you can put a layer and then put a layer mask on it, and then stack your layers and control the amount of effect that happens to the image by adjusting the opacity. On Lightroom we don't have layers, and we don't have the ability to adjust the opacity after we've applied an effect. So flow, the amount of flow that you apply of a brush, is similar to how the opacity would be. So we'll go somewhere here and we'll start around maybe 50% on this brush effect. Okay. Now we don't need to be feathered up that much. We want some tighter control. We're going to use auto mask. The reason why we're going to use auto mask is going to help us keep it off the hair. So if you just go ahead and grab a brush. Now remember, when you're putting these brush strokes in, wherever you click first is where this pin is going to be applied. You see that? So you want to put those in an area they're not going to be in your way when you're trying to judge your image. Sometimes you don't have a choice when you're working with the eyes. Okay. So if we just start painting, you really don't know what exactly we're doing here. But if you hit the O key, overlay, that gives you an idea what you're doing. When you have auto mask selected, you can go in and paint, and you see how it didn't paint on the eyes? Well, if you have this turned off, it'll just paint right on the eye. Okay? So we'll control Z. And the idea is to put this kind of like a rough all over the subject's face, kind of like a base layer of makeup, and then we'll use the eraser tool to take it off the areas we don't want. So you don't need to worry about getting too fine. Okay, so we'll just actually zoom in and we're going to fit it at 1:1, so when we take this stuff off, we know where we're at. So if you hold down the Alt key, you have to look at the flow options on Alt, and Alt is the option key on the Mac, and we're just going to come in here and we're going to erase off anything that we don't want, which is like around the hair, places like that. So we're going to have to hold the space bar to slide over, give me the hand tool, and go back to the Alt key, and we're going to just remove anything that was softened with the eraser tool. Okay, so we'll come over here, we'll take it off this side. We don't want anything on the eye or the eyelashes. So I'll get this and we'll come right back. I'll pause it and we'll come right back. One thing I did want to show you, when you're removing the stuff on your mask, you want to make sure that when you come to areas of the nose, since we're working in a 2D space, we need to protect things that are going to help us with our 3D. If we soften this all just like this, we would lose any depth on this nose and these nostrils. So what we're going to do is come over here with our flow, probably around 50-60%, and we're going to remove it, any of that, right at this transition between the tip of the nose and where the nostrils are going to be. Okay, because we don't want to lose any of that 3D depth. Okay, so just remove the effect from the tips of the nose and around the nostril, because it will push that nose flat against the face and look like mush. Okay, so that's just something to remember. So let me finish removing everything. Okay, for our base skin softening that we've done, you can get an idea that we don't want anything on the eyes, we don't want any on the teeth, we don't want our nose to look mushed into the face, so we're going to remove it there. We don't want any softening on the hair. We don't want any on the teeth or the lips. Looks like I might have a little bit still on the lips. So let's remove any that I may have there. Okay, so that's pretty good. Also, you don't want any softening on clothes or stuff like that. Alright, so that's our first softening round. And this is just to blend in the skin a little bit. So we're going to hit the O key. Okay, and the next thing we're going to deal with is, before we come back to that, is any kind of spot removal that we may need to deal with. You can see that I've already removed that little thermostat thing or whatever that was on the wall. So what we'll do is we'll zoom in here. We'll look at her at 1:1, and you'll see that there's certain areas on the skin that need to be dealt with. So if you grab your spot removal tool, you can just click on these little areas. We're not going to take anything off her face that's going to take away from who she is, like a mole, any distinguishing marks that somebody may have. So we're going to leave this there unless she specifically said that she wanted it removed. I'm going to have an initial conversation with any of my clients and ask them specific questions. You know, what are these images for? Are these for, you know, headshots that you're trying to get movie work with, or these are just family portraits? Because if these are fashion and beauty images, I will take artistic liberty to make them look the best I could possibly make the image look. For example, if I think their forehead's too tall, I'll shrink their forehead. If they got a double chin, I'll tuck the chin in. If their arms are too fat, I will use a warp tool and make their arms smaller. If their neck is too long, I can shorten it, or if it's too short, I can make it longer. I can do all these things to images that, when it's for fashion and beauty. However, for a family portrait or for headshots that you're trying to get a job for, the images need to represent you as you are. We're not going to do anything to take away from who you are. For example, if you wear glasses, I'm going to shoot you with glasses. If you have a mole on your forehead, I'm going to leave that mole on your forehead. But I'm not going to take away these little guys, like these little pimples and things like this, little freckles or skin blotches, stuff like that. That's not a problem to deal with. However, you might want to consider, say if you had 500 images you need to retouch and they were all headshots, and if you'd have took some preparation and put some moisturizer on the skin, you can avoid a lot of this dry skin. Also, you always want to shoot somebody with lip gloss. Okay, her lips are a little bit dry and they're maybe a little bit cracking. We could have avoided that. Okay, so anything to make your life easier as a retoucher, look at what's going to happen to you in the future after you make the picture. You know, a little bit of preventative medicine to the face would have helped a lot in a lot of the jobs I've had problems with in the past. So, also I want you to think about, when you are retouching somebody's skin, how does your skin look? Because her skin's looks pretty good. when you look at it as under a microscope like we are, there's obviously going to be some imperfections. We're all human, and you need to consider that when you're doing retouching. Don't judge somebody by the way they look. You have to look at yourself first, because we all think we look better than we actually do in the mirror. Well, at least most people that I've dealt with. When I look at myself in the mirror, I definitely don't feel like the person that I see when I look in the mirror. So that's just something to consider. Has nothing to do with retouching. It's just something I thought I'd throw out there. So what we'll do is I'll pause this. I'll come back after I've got all these spot removal done. Okay, so you can see that we've done quite a bit here. I'll show you how I got rid of that one here. We'll just grab it, zoom up, or actually make the brush bigger and just encompass the whole thing. That's the whole trick to doing this, is just make it just bigger than the area that you're trying to remove. So let's zoom in here. I'll show you before and after there. Okay, so if we turn this tool off, you see that a lot of that skin is gone now. Okay, so let's see if we can't turn that off. There it was before, and this is after the removal. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is I'm going to use my TSP line remover. Okay, I've got a brush that I use to diminish the lines, or soften the lines of the face. So I call it the fine line softening brush. Okay, I'm just going to come in here, and the idea is we're not going to try to smooth everything out, or not eliminate everything. We're just going to smooth it out. So let's look and see what our flow is at. So I'm going to bring our flow up to around 80%. Okay, because this brush here is pretty important for just getting any of those troubled areas, like the face, where the that skin needed to be exfoliated. We want to just come in here and just be kind of liberal with it. We want to avoid it anytime softening the hair. And we don't want to knock these down, because this is her character, her face. She's not a teenager anymore. Okay, her face looks the way it does because of who she is and what she's done with herself and what she's done with her life. And our job is to make her look good, not change her. So we're just going to come here and soften up some of these lines of her face. That's all we're doing. We'll deal with this color here in a minute. There's see how the chin's kind of red? We can smooth it out. We don't want to take the texture off of her face. We just want to smooth the lines. Okay? So come in here and just grab these lines. We'll smooth them out. Some of these pores here. You see that she has natural skin. She doesn't use a lot of makeup, which is wonderful. There's not a lot of women that can get away with that and still look good. She does it very well. Grab some of this shine on the nose. This brush really is helpful for so many things. We'll take the lines off some of the bridge of the nose, top of the eye. Okay, which again, you want to stay off the hair. Just grab these lines and just soften them up. Skin soften can take away a lot of character from somebody's face if it's overdone. And with this way, you can just apply it selectively instead of just one great big plug-in like in Photoshop. But Photoshop, you can pull off the opacity too. So I'm going to make this fit, and I'm just going to hit the forehead real quick. In general, we'll bring it back to 1:1, and let's see what we did. If there's any extra lines, we'd just give it a little bit of extra attention. It just kind of diminishes the lines a little bit. Okay, we're gonna grab these guys here. Our skin's looking pretty darn good. Come Come over here under this eye one more time. Go around this mole just a little bit. And you can still see there's pores in her face, and there's still texture, and there's fuzz on her face. You know, the hair is all still there. All this stuff is there, and that's the great thing about this brush, is that it doesn't kill the detail. It just smooths it out. Okay, so now we've got that done. I want to click New on the brush. Okay, New, and if we wanted to continue, we could just stack the effect and come in there. And, you know, start getting too much in there. It kills the natural look of the photograph. Okay, so let's look at before and after now. So there was her skin before that brush, and there it is after. Okay, so we're going to do one more skin softening. We're going to click New, and I'm going to grab my brush here. Well, actually, let's just save that to last as a finishing touch for the skin. Okay, so let's come down here and let's look at these teeth. You can see that I fixed, there was a little bit of stuff in her teeth. Before we get to the teeth, let's just do the lips. I have a lip gloss brush that I like to use. It's called a lip gloss builder brush, and watch what it does to these dry lips. Okay, it's going to make it look like there's gloss been applied to them. At least I think it does. Okay, and let's see what our flow's at. Our flow's at 70. I'm going to bring this to 100%. And it almost makes them look like they have gloss. Now I've tried this effect in Photoshop, and I've been unable to replicate it the same way as I can here in Lightroom. So I'm going to grab a new brush, a softening brush, and get rid of some of this cracked skin. So we're going to grab our line, we're going to click New, and we're going to get our fine line. And I'm just going to go across this edge. I need to feather my brush more. We Control Z to delete that brush stroke. And we're also going to bring the flow down to around 25%. Because we don't want to kill it all. We just want it to be there. So we need to feather the brush more. Okay. Alright, and now we're going to apply that same effect. It lets us build it up, just so the lips don't look so cracked, or the creases are not so prevalent. Okay, we're going to make it really soft and come in here and just hit just on those cracks right there, and the ones over here. Okay, so let's look at the before and after on her lips. Okay, so you can see there's quite a bit of difference. Let's see if the teeth shows. Okay, so that's just with the lips. And now let's go ahead and fix the teeth. Now we don't want to make the teeth brighter per se. What we want to do is knock any of the discoloration. You know, as we eat and smoke or whatever else we do, drink pop or coffee, what'll happen is it'll discolor our teeth. Okay, so I'm not going to set the exposure at 40. I'm going to set it at 1/10 of a stop. Okay, and our saturation doesn't need to be at -60. It needs to be somewhere around -38. Around -38. And if we need to bring it down a little bit more, let's make it like 40, 45. Okay. I need to go up to 20 on that. We hit the O key, we can look at our overlay, and let's turn our flow up. That's what our problem is. I need to be at 10th. I'm always at a 10th. Okay, I know this needs to go to 35. I know our flow is low. That's what the problem was. And I'm going to turn on auto mask. if I turn off the overlay, we can just see that it's going to just fix our teeth right up. And if we get this effect on the lips, we're just going to erase it off. And the idea is to get teeth that look natural, not bright or alienish like what happens if you brighten eyes too much. Okay, so basically we just taken any discoloration off the teeth and we just give them a hint of exposure. So if you hit the O key, that'll give you your overlay, and you can see that we maybe need to adjust a little bit on this lip down here. So if we're going to hit the Alt, we're just going to erase around that edge. Okay, same thing up here on the gum. We don't want that to be, that back tooth looks pretty bright already. And with the auto mask on, it's going to stop us right at that gum line, except right there it didn't. So I'll just hit it again, and now let's paint down. We'll hold down the Alt, and we're going to remove it around that gum, and we're going to paint it again. Auto mask can save you a lot of time. Okay, so let's turn off the overlay. Let's look at the before and after on her teeth. Before and after. Now a good judge to see if her teeth are too bright, what we want to do is fit them in the screen, and we need to turn off our brushes. Now they look a little bit bright to me, okay? So my eyes are going right to it. Your eyes go to the brightest area in the scene. So her teeth happen to be the brightest. So we'll turn that back on. We'll hover our brush, which is to find out which one it is. And it was the teeth. And maybe we need to be at 0.05. Okay, we'll turn off our brush. And that looks a little bit better to me. So her teeth look nice. So let's go ahead and let's deal with that chin. You can see it's still a little bit red. I know she's got rosy cheeks, but we really don't want a rosy chin. Okay? So let's go back at 1:1. Okay, so we're at 1:1, and we're going to go in with the brush tools, and we're going to grab a new brush. New. I'm going to go down here and grab color. Okay, with nothing set on this brush, I'm going to grab a color somewhere between orange and red, maybe like orange and yellow. Okay, somewhere in this area, and I'm just going to paint. Let me move this subject over here. Okay, so now with this selected, I'm just going to paint right in here, and I know it looks orange, but I'm doing that so I can see where I'm painting. So come over here and I just paint on the chin where that discoloration was, and this is great for doing blotchies if the skin is blotchy. Okay, so now we've got that painted. What we'll do is we'll come over here and we'll drag it down to 0 saturation. That's 0. Okay, we'll bring it up a little bit and we'll move it to where the color that effect's not letting me do it the way I want. Let me pause and find out what's going on. Okay, let's try this again. I've loaded that color brush a couple times, so we're just going to go into clarity with nothing set on it, and I'm going to paint on that chin. But I'm going to grab my color first. We're going to select it. It's just not letting me get. Normally I'm supposed to be able to drag in there. We're going to do this one later. Sorry about that one to show you an effect, but for some reason my interface isn't working the way I'm normally expecting it to. So we're just going to go right into the eyes. So with the brush selected, we're going to select new brush, and we're going to get the eye brightener. And we're just going to go overall, just the whole eye. Okay. And again, you don't want her to look like an alien. So in order to determine if you've gone too bright or not, is you need to zoom it out. So we need to turn this brush off. And if our eyes look too bright, they're just, you'll see they just glow. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's go back to that eye. Okay, and if we turn it up like this, you see how she looks like an alien? We've gone too far with it. Obviously that's a huge exaggeration. So what we'll do is we'll bring that exposure back to 0. We have to select that and bring the exposure back to 0. And if you just bring it up just a hair, you can see when you've overdone it. That's too much. Somewhere around this area. There's when it pops, you'll know. It's the same as that basic eye retouch tutorial that I did. Okay, so 0.5 looks pretty good. This is just the overall brightness of the eye. Okay, so the eyes look good. The whites of the eye look good to me. Now I want to put a glint in the eye. So we're going to select a new brush, and I'm going to use the iris builder brush. Okay, and this takes 2 brushes. First one is for the glint. We're going to look at our feathering, and we're going to make a tighter brush. And I might need to go like 4:1 on this, just so I can get enough room for the brush. So we'll make our exposure a little bit more than usual. And I'm going to make a horseshoe shape in the eye. I need a little bit of feathering. People say they have a sparkle in the eye. I'm not talking about the catch light, I'm talking about the sparkle. So just create like a horseshoe shape right underneath the eye right here. Control Z, I need to be feathered more. Okay. I'm going to turn auto masking off. Okay, so that's the shape we want to make right underneath the eye. We'll go over here to the other eye, and we'll adjust the exposure in just a second. So here's the shape. Right here is where we want to go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to 1:1, and the exposure will just turn to 0, and I'll just bring it up until I can see it. Now we're going to stack effects, so we don't want it to be too bright. Okay, so there's the glint in the eye. So we're going to click new brush, same one, iris builder, and we're just going to paint on the eye. Let me look at these settings again. Okay, exposure at 0, bring it up to like 1/10. Okay, and we're just going to paint this effect on the eye, but not on the catch light of the eye. So what you do is you just paint over the whole thing, and then you're going to turn on the overlay and this erase on the catch light, because see, the catch light just turned white, and that'll be the first thing your eye goes to, is that white area. Also, we want to create a black ring around the eye. So what we need to do is hit the overlay key. We're going to hold down the Alt, and we're going to erase where that eyelid meets the top of the eye, because it creates a dark area on the eye, and you want that because that's where the shadow is. It looks strange if there's light there. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is you want to, with the feathering of the brush, you want to hold down the Alt key, and you want to get a dark circle around the eye. There's usually a dark ring around the eye, and you just come in and erase the effect, and we'll get you that dark circle back, or that dark ring around the outside edge of the eye. Okay, we don't want any effect on the eyelid. And she's squinting pretty good on that eye, so you don't get to see that dark circle very well, or that dark ring on the bottom of the eye. Same here. If you take too much away, you can just add it more back. So I need to add a little bit more. Okay. And we're also going to remove from the catch light any of this effect. Same with that little catch light, because we've increased the saturation and we've increased the clarity so that whatever color is going to be falling in there, like you can see there's a blue color, it's going to kill that color. Okay, so now let's move just a little bit more off this corner here. Okay, so we're going to hit the O key again, turn the brush off, and you can see the eye. Oh, you see she's got a nice sparkle in her eye. See at the bottom of her eye, you can just barely see it. Okay, so let's look at the before and after of the eye. There's just so many brush effects on there, you can't see them all. Let's turn it on. There's off. And there's on, all the brush effects. Off and on. Let's see if we can't fill the frame with the eye. Let's see if we can find a happy medium here. 1 to 3. 1 to 2. Okay, there we go. There's before and after. Let's turn this brush off. So, it's looking pretty good, I think. So last thing we'll do is an overall skin retouch, and we'll fix the hair. We'll do something with the hair, and then we'll do a vignette on the image. Skin looks pretty good though. I don't think we need to do too much. So grab our brush tool. We'll select new. We'll go to the hair builder. And we don't want to do this area right here where the hair light's hitting the hair, because it'll make it white. But what this does is increases the highlights in the hair. You see that right there. So if I just come around the edge of the hair, and you can see that I just got some on the outside of the background. So we can just hold the Alt key and remove that. Okay, so I'll apply some more right here in the front. Around this edges, let's get rid of this overlay so you can see what's happening here. You fit it in at 1 to 4 so you can see. Just makes those tips just bright a little bit. I'm going to take this away right here because it's too bright already from the hair light. Okay, so hit the overlay. Just makes that golden hair just pop right out. Almost looks like there's a hair light on the top of her hair. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Turn off the brushes. Let's look at it one more time at our skin and see where we're at, if we need to do anything to it. Looks pretty good. We still have detail in this pores. The fine line detail still there. There's still pores in her cheek. There's still fuzz on her hair face. The nose doesn't look mashed in. Teeth look good. That chin, I would really like to do an adjustment on that. Let me try one more time. We're going to select a new brush and color. Just going to have to do it the hard way, I guess. Normally I could drag a brush around here to get my color where I want, but it's not letting me. For some reason the colors have shifted. It's making me do it up and down. So let's just paint right here. Get my overlay in. Normally I'd just use a color there. I can always just delete this brush if it doesn't work. This is where Photoshop and Lightroom, I have a little bit more experience inside Photoshop. That's why I'm doing a Lightroom tutorial. Okay, hit the overlay. Okay, so we're going to grab that color again. And I know we can drop the saturation here, so we can do that. But the whole idea is we want to get the color to be where we want it to be. So I guess I can move the colors left and right here. Normally I could just do it with a hand tool right inside here on this dot. It's not letting me do it. Maybe one of you guys can tell me what I'm doing wrong here. So this is going to be the temperature. See, this is what I'm used to. Okay, so now I can slide the color kind of to the yellow side, and I can bring it down and get rid of the saturation. Okay, so this is what I'm used to. Maybe I just had something click that I shouldn't have. So let me come over here and paint a little bit more, and I'll be able to get rid of it. I know it doesn't look right on her, but we'll be able to use the Alt option to get rid of it. Okay, so this is what I'm used to. Okay, so we're gonna, it's in between red and yellow. So if I go to this far, we're too yellow. If I go this side, I'm too red. And her chin was already red. We're trying to match this skin tone. So we'll come down here till it's kind of matching as far as the tone. And now we'll move left and right to get the color right. Okay, that's too red. That's too yellow. I'll bring it all the way off. Move it over. That looks pretty good to me. Let's turn that off here. Let's look at before and after to see what we got here. Okay, so there's her really red skin, and there it's more blended in. Okay, so that's how you do that. So let's do the vignette and call this edit done. Maybe I want to do one more skin softening. So let's do that. Let's put it at 4:1 to fit it. We'll come up here, we'll click new. And we're going to grab the softening. The skin soften brush, TSP. And we're going to set it, the flow, at around 30%. Okay. Now I'm going to bring this into 1:1, and we're just going to go over areas that maybe need a little bit more softening. And if you double click it, it'll just keep laying it on. Okay. A little bit here. We hit the O key, we can see where we're at on the overlay. And I'm not trying to get too crazy with it. I just want to see what I'm doing here. Okay, so see if there's any areas that need it. One last retouch on the skin. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit there. And you know, it might not be a big change, but subtle changes, they do add up. And I found that if you just try to go in there with one big brush, it jacks everything up. So we want to come in here and get some of those lines off this nose. And we could change some of that coloration if we wanted to, the same way we did on the chin. So it's not so red there. Alright. Geez, 40 minutes into this retouch. Lightroom is It's a great tool. I love it, but it's just not for skin retouching and stuff like that. You can do it. It does the job, but it takes a long time. Photoshop, we can bang this baby out 10 minutes. Okay. Let me get this one more time right in here. Get these fine line wrinkles. Okay, let's make this baby fit. And we'll do our vignette. We'll turn the brush off. Okay. And we're going to go down to lens correction. And if you're like on these two options, you go to manual. And this will create a proper lens vignette. So the idea is to push our viewer's attention to the center of the screen. So this will get the amount, okay, how dark the corners are, and this will determine where it goes to the center of the image. Alright, something like that. To me, that looks pretty nice. So we're going to call this one done at 41:15. Thank you all for visiting my blog today. Until next time, we'll see you soon.